What is up, Carmination? Welcome here to Opening Day 2021 betting preview. I almost said 2020 there. I think last year's COVID bonanza made me forget what year it is for MLB. But we have two of our MLB GOATs for both DFSkarma.com and BetKarma.com. We have Rueb and Bales. Follow these guys on Twitter if you don't already. That's why we keep the Twitter handles underneath their faces to make it easier to find them. So for this one, we're going to be focusing kind of on the betting aspect, but we're going to be focusing on, if you don't play DFS, we call this the main slate. So if you play on DraftKings and FanDuel, we're going to be focusing on the games in the main slate, because those are the ones we pay most attention to, because those are the ones you can make the most money on the DFS side. So for argument's sake, we are going through not every single game for opening day. We're going to be focusing heavily on the main slate, which starts at 2:10 p.m. with the Twins Brewers, and then finishes with the 4:10 p.m. games, which the last one on my list is Rangers and Royals. So if you only care about one of the games in between that time frame, then just you could fast forward, rewind, do whatever you need to do to get to the game that you are most interested in, if not all of them. But if you are interested in games that are before then, maybe the 1 p.m. games or the late stuff, the 10 p.m. Eastern time games, then just hop into our Discord. Go to betkarmachat.com and you'll get into our Discord for free. And something we're doing, if you haven't heard about this yet, for the first time in the history of pretty much either DFS Karma or Bet Karma, we're actually offering all of our plays. All of our expert MLB bets are 100% free all month long for April. All you got to do is go to betkarmachat.com and you're automatically going to be added into the MLB Premium channel, which is where you can talk back and forth with the thousands of other members of Karma Nation for either the games we're going to go over now on this video or the games outside of that window. And all of our bets are going to be free, so make sure you do that. Something else I want to mention, we have a lot more tools we've added to our MLB Bet Karma product. So go to betkarma.com and check out our Mlb Live Trends. It's a brand new color-coded page we have that'll show you, changes in run lines, changes in the money in the run line odds, changes in the over-unders and the score predictions, all that stuff. We have MLB Live Odds. We have a new MLB Against the Spread record page as well. We got a lot of fun things on there, so make sure you guys check out betkarma.com. But enough of my rambling. Let's hop right into it. Before we get to a game, Bales Rueb, how excited are you that baseball's back and also on time this year?
Feels good. It feels really good. Baseball is one of my favorite sports. It's just, man, it's a grind. When you get to the end of the season, it's just grinding out. It's kind of like basketball without the after-lock news, really. So it's going to be really fun that we don't have to sit on our laptops until 10 p.m. to figure out who's playing. But I'm really excited for baseball. I feel like it's probably my best sport, and I get really excited every year when it comes around.
Yeah, I'm really excited about baseball as well. We've been grinding NBA the past couple of months. It's going to be nice to have a nice little change of pace. NBA is still going on, but I'm excited to get lineups 3 hours early. I mean, it's going to be shocking after having all this crazy NBA news and whatnot. So I'm excited about baseball. I'm happy and really, really excited to be a part of the Karma team heading into this 2021 season, and we're going to crush it this year.
All right, let's hop right into it. So my job here is to make sure I butcher all of the pitching names, all of the batting names possible as we go through this entire
fun
video.
I'm excited for that.
You can call me AC because I'm going to butcher everybody's name. That's what I do. So starting things off, what I have here is the first 2:10 p.m. game for tomorrow or today, depending on when you're watching this video, which, by the way, make sure you click the thumbs up and subscribe to this channel because this is not the only piece of betting/DFS MLB intel you're going to get this year. You're going to get tons of MLB content, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. That being said, we have the Orioles, who probable we have as means, and then Red Sox is probable right now, pitching-wise, is Eovaldi. We have the, let me see here real quick. Let me pull up, the odds just went away. So I know I have pulled up the screen, but I also have pulled up on my phone, and I'm trying to.
I have it 9.5, Travis.
9.5 is the over-under. There we go. I just pulled it back up. All right, so first thoughts on this from both, or either or DFS and betting mindset. Rueb, start with you. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting spot for the Red Sox in particular, going against the Orioles, who we expect to be one of the bottom feeders of the league this year. I mean, not expecting big things out of Baltimore. Eovaldi, one of the more intriguing options on the DraftKings main slate, in my opinion. Priced all the way down at 6.3K, got stretched out to 5 2/3 in his last in his last spring training start. This is one of the highest over-unders on the slate. I believe it's tied for second highest, and that's mostly because of the Red Sox side. And they have some very intriguing bats with some low prices that I expect to be popular on the DFS slate. We have Kike Hernandez coming over from the Dodgers. He's only $3K on DraftKings with second base outfield eligibility. And then the lefty destroyer, JD Martinez, in the low fours on DraftKings will be someone that I'll be attacking. And I'm interested in those two pieces from the Red Sox.
All right, Bales, what you got for this one?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a John Means guy. I don't honestly think he's very good. I thought that he was realistically mediocre last year. I thought he got kind of lucky too. So I think he's a little bit worse than that. My problem in terms of like betting on this game is I can't imagine with a full slate here, you're going to find me put a wager on Nathan Eovaldi. It's just probably not going to happen. I also don't love the Red Sox. I think they're in a good spot against Means just because I don't think he's an overly good pitcher. I think he's more or less a fine 3 on some teams instead of an ace. It's kind of crazy that they're sending him out there. But, the same could be said for Eovaldi. So I feel like if I'm attacking anything in this game, it's probably the bats, which I also think is pretty reflective of the 9.5 over.
I mean, Bales, I got my Red Sox shirt on today, my Green Monster shirt. I had to tout the Red Sox today.
Yeah, had to give it a go. I do think they have some intriguing bats, like Bobby Dahlbeck at 4K. I don't think it's that bad against a lefty. You talked about JD Martinez, Bogarts. Always hits lefties well. I think that they do have some bats, but I also think that Boston's probably going to get some ownership tomorrow, and if that's the case, probably not really my style there.
So I didn't mention.
Yeah, definitely more of a one-off team for me.
But something I want to do for so as we go down each of these games that are in the fantasy main slate, as you mentioned, the 210 to 410 games, is either say that there's absolutely nothing that you would bet on, or choose one of the 6 options. Either side's money line, either over under for the total, or either side's run line. So either option A, I hate everything, I wouldn't put any money on anything, or just choose which are your favorite out of everything that's available there. So I think Bales, were you saying that you weren't touching this one at all in terms of any of those options?
If you're really trying to take a shot, I'd probably lean the over.
I mean, that there's for the size of the Red Sox fandom, there's going to be people that are just be targeting this game. So they're going to probably be watching like, okay, just tell me what to do and then I'll do it. Like I want action on the first game of the season. Yeah.
I mean, if I'm hitting something, it's probably the over, but I'm not really going to because it's the first game. It's really cold out. Like we're April 1st. It's not like the ball's just going to be flying. And apparently, they have balls that aren't nearly as juiced as last year. So maybe not nearly as many runs. I'm not backing either team. I guess if you're like gun to head, I would go over, but this is probably just an avoid for me.
What about you, Ruben? Any of those 6 that something that you would consider, or are you completely off the board for this one?
I'm not overly interested. I definitely want to be betting against the Orioles this year, just in general. And I traditionally love to target the Red Sox against lefties. Potentially, if I was going to go this way, would just be really backing Eovaldi and backing the Red Sox, and it would be maybe the -1.5 run line at +117 is something that I would be looking at.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next 2:10 p.m. game here. We have the Twins with Maeda and Brewers with Woodruff. I'll start with you, Bales. What is your first look on the DFS side of things?
Yeah, I think either pitcher's fine. They're both surprisingly cheap for the slate. They both rank, I believe, out of like the top 7. They're 83 and 8K. I do think that both offenses are really good, which makes them risky, and I'm assuming that most people probably avoid them strictly for that reason. But I prefer the pitching here. As for betting, I would take a shot on Milwaukee as an underdog. I think Minnesota's offense is a little bit better. I think that the 2 pitchers between Maeda and Woodruff are relatively similar, maybe slight edge Maeda, but I believe that Milwaukee probably has the best bullpen in the MLB. And early in the season, before the pitchers are really stretched out and they're going to go 7-8 innings, you kind of have to lean heavily on your bullpen. So at plus odds, I would take Milwaukee here.
All right, what about you, Rube? What you got on this game?
For me, these are two pitchers that I really like coming into this season. So it's unfortunate that they're going up against each other here to start. Just the fact that I love both the pitchers, I'm pretty interested in that under 8 number, minus 108 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. That might be a number that I want to attack, and it could potentially go down to 7.5. I definitely want to be all over that. For me, I agree with Bales that it's Maeda and Woodruff, two good pitchers, slight lean to Maeda. But I mean, the Brewers have former MVP Christian Yelich.
So something I was going to ask, I guess I can ask now.
So much.
Oh, I think I think Rubes, I think you're cutting it out there. I got like some random word at the end there. I'm not sure what you were saying yet. But no, the question I was going to ask was, no, you're good. The question I was going to ask is, for this entire main slate, before we get to the next game, who do you believe is the, I guess the first two-part question. The first question is, who's going to be the chalkiest pitcher on this main slate? And the second question is, who's going to be that low-owned pitcher that takes down, the massive GPPs tomorrow? Bales, go ahead. Let's start with you.
Chalky pitcher? I would just guess it would be Yu Darvish at this point. I think there's plenty of reason to play him against Arizona. He's the most expensive. I don't really think it matters. I guess it depends on who people are going to be using at their bats, if they're going to pay up for cores or not. But I would still expect Darvish to probably get quite a bit of ownership. And then just on the reason of him being the chalky option, I think the guy that can really take down a GPP would be Aaron Nola, who's basically the same price. Looked atrocious in spring. He was working on a new pitch. It means absolutely nothing. He didn't throw it late in the spring and looked fantastic. So I think that Aaron Nola is a guy that's going to go completely overlooked because it's not going to be hard to find 300 to play Darvish. But I do think that Nola, even in a tough matchup against Atlanta, comes with a lot of upside.
And then, Rube, what do you have for your chalkiest and then your pitcher that's going to be helping GPP takedowns tomorrow?
Yeah, I completely agree with Yu Darvish being the most popular guy. He would be the guy that I'd be prioritizing if I was spending up. For a little bit cheaper, you could look at Glass now. The Marlins are traditionally pretty tough against right-handed pitchers and don't strike out as much as people. So Darvish would be the spend up. Glass now in the mid-tier. And then for a cheaper guy, it might be the guy on the opposite side of Glass now, Sandy Alcantara. I think he's a really interesting option, and he's one of my favorite cheap guys tomorrow.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next matchup here. We have the Pirates and the Cubs. If you guys are saying, what the heck is that dinging noise, and why is it happening during this? So that's my my desktop notification. So because this is the day before opening day, we have every time you hear a ding, that's somebody signing up for either one of our Bet Karma packages or DFS Karma packages for MLB. And yeah, forgot to turn it off. So as you see, a lot of people are jumping back on the Carbonation train there during this recording of this podcast. That being said, let's go to it. We have Chad Kuhl. I think I might be saying that right. Kuhl.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yep, got it on the first try. And then Hendricks, of course. Now, I'm not sure if was any scratches here or what, but I mean, I'm looking at DraftKings Sports, but you can see it on the screen right now. We don't have any run line or over/under. So
the wind.
The wind's the factor there. That's why they don't. Okay.
Yes, the wind. They'll put the Cubs never get the over/under until they get what the wind will be. Right now, it looks like it's going to blow in about 15-20 miles an hour. So you're probably going to get an over/under around 6.5, 7, honestly.
Gotcha. All right, go ahead, Bales. Keep talking about this one. What do you have for the DFS side of things?
So as far as I'm aware, it's going to be like 30 degrees in Chicago, and the wind's blowing in at about 15 miles an hour. It's a very clear spot to completely avoid hitters. I think Kyle Hendricks is going to be a very solid option. He's so cheap because he literally strikes nobody out. I don't want to play Kyle Hendricks. I don't like pitchers that don't get strikeouts. But when you're facing a really, really bad Pittsburgh offense, it's this cold, the wind's blowing in, literally everything is going in Hendricks' favor. I feel like he's probably going to end up being a chalky option just because of his price. I doubt I take any chance on Chad Kuhl. I feel like this game is legitimately Kyle Hendricks or nobody for me. And then if you're just looking at something to bet, I would honestly just take that under. I can't imagine that either team really scores a ton of runs in this game.
All right, what do you got, Rube?
So for me in this game, I completely agree about the wind. Hendricks is an interesting option. Definitely strikeouts are king for pitchers on DraftKings. So you definitely want to be attacking guys who have big strikeout stuff. But Hendricks is one of those guys who could potentially go deeper in the game. Not a huge walk guy and doesn't get into deep counts because of those low strikeout numbers. So he could be an innings eater, which is appealing early in the season. For me, if the wind is as expected and it's coming in and this line opens too high, I mean, you heard Bale 6.5, 7. If it comes in at 7.5 as an open, we might be looking at an underplay here. So monitor that as the night goes on.
All right, let's move things right along to the 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time Braves and Phillies matchup. I know you mentioned a little bit of about Nola being a potential GPP takedown pitcher, but Bales, going back to you, what is your favorite things about this matchup from the fantasy side, and then which of those 6 options are you most interested in on the betting side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Max Fried and Aaron Nola. I think both are fine options. My big issue is that they're playing in Philly, so I kind of lean Aaron Nola there. For what it's worth, and this is going to sound weird because I like Nola so much, you can stack either team. Both teams have the offenses that can absolutely blow up against anyone. It doesn't seem like either Atlanta or Philly is going to be over-owned, and obviously you get the super hitter-friendly ballpark. So even if you want to just take like your shot, there's guys on both sides like Freddie Freeman, JT Realmuto. There's guys on both sides that you could really attack here. As for betting, I feel like if I'm just making a bet on this, it would probably be first 5 under. I really like Nola and Fried. I think that both are really good. And since it's so early in the season, I'll probably give them a slight edge. And then we obviously don't need to rely on the bullpens if you're just grabbing the first 5.
All right, Rube, what do you have on this one?
I like that call. That's a great call on that first 5. We got off of here. For me, it would be, I kind of agree with Bales that it would be Nola that I like a little bit more. But honestly, I'm kind of staying away from both of these pitchers on DraftKings just for the kind of stuff that I play. I don't know. I'm not crazy interested in this game. The problem is it's two really, really good competitive teams. And here early in the season, we're getting a bunch of aces on the mound, and some teams don't have very good aces. When I respect both of these guys, Fried and Nola especially. So this is more of a stay away game for me personally.
All right, moving on to the next 4:10 p.m. game. We have Kershaw and the Rockies. Now, typically, of course, we're always targeting Colorado stacks in Colorado, but versing Kershaw, Bales, is that still something that is something we're going to keep our eyes on? There's a massive over-under of 11. I think it's just, of course, always going to be the biggest one on the slate, but does Kershaw, him being on the mound, kind of bring any hesitation to, typical Colorado stack, or what are you looking at there fantasy-wise?
Yeah, I mean, Colorado's not good. I think everyone's going to know that. They kind of got rid of some of their top players. Their offense isn't going to be nearly as good. They still play in Coors. It is what it is. I probably will not be using any of their bats. I think if you want to take a shot on specific guys, I'm fine with it. Like CJ Cron is 3,800. It's so cheap for against a left-handed pitcher. Obviously, Kershaw is really good. I'm not going to prioritize Colorado. I think the Dodgers could end up being the highest owned stack on the slate. I think they probably should be. But at the same time, they're really expensive. I guess with someone like Kyle Hendricks at pitcher, it's not going to be that difficult to get them in, but you're not really going to be able to play them with Yu Darvish. You're not going to play either pitcher. Kershaw's way too expensive, and you're not really the entire season going to play any pitcher against the Dodgers. So this is really more or less Dodgers stack, Colorado one-off or avoid for me. And just in terms of betting, probably just a complete avoid. I feel like I don't really trust the Rockies to put up any numbers. I feel like the Dodgers could just put up 12 themselves to hit the over, but you're not going to bank on anything like that. So I'm not going to make any bets on this game.
All right, what about you, Rube? What are your thoughts? Are you also kind of avoiding? Well, I mean, I guess you're agreeing that you would agree that the Rockies are trash this season. I guess before
Yeah, I definitely agree the Rockies are trash, and I think that they're going to end up trading Trevor Story here at some point this season. Story's probably the most interesting GPP play on the slate, in my opinion, because if there's one thing he can do, it's mash lefties. And if you're going to get a semi-low-owned Trevor Story in cores against a lefty, even someone of Kershaw's caliber, I think that's interesting. For me, I would be kind of avoiding a guy like Crone just because I think he gets I think so. I think
You think Crone gets ownership?
He gets up there, and yeah, I think he gets a ton of ownership. So if he's gonna be like higher than 25% owned, I mean, I'm gonna completely stay away. And then on the Dodgers side, you're right, they're really expensive. Marquez is a guy that I respect, and I don't really like to even pick on him that much because he does have when he's on, he has some filthy stuff. I feel like I'm going to have to play some Dodgers, but it just might not be a full stack for me. And I may prioritize a pitcher like Darvish over some of these Dodgers bats personally.
Are you also fading all betting options on this game, Rube?
I probably lean to the under in this game. So I would lean under in this
under
game.
11? Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Let's move on to the next 4:10 p.m. game. I have the Diamondbacks with Mad Bum, and then you, who's been talked about a handful of times already on this pod, with the San Diego Padres, which have done a whole lot of free agency and trading and whatnot to kind of bolster their offense and also their pitching core as well. But starting with you this time, Rube, what are your DFS thoughts on the squad?
Yeah, man, Darvish is going to be, like we've been talking about, one of the more popular pitchers on the slate, and for good reason. He's someone I'm going to want to be invested in, and I think I'm going to prioritize him here tomorrow in my lineups. So that means no Arizona Diamondbacks for me, no interest at all, really. Got to talk about Fernando Tatis anytime he's on the slate. Power and speed upside, one of the best five-tool players in the game of baseball right now, going against a lefty. And then, Machado as well, but they're expensive. And especially on a core slate, you're really prioritizing them over the Dodgers just because of price. They're more expensive than they're the same price as Bellinger, and Betts is a little bit more expensive. But for me, I don't know if this is where I'm going with the Dodgers. It may be a one-off of Tatis if I feel like I want to get up there at shortstop. But really, it's just you Darvish in this game for me.
And then from a betting point, anything you're looking at for this one at all?
What do we have as the over/under there on DraftKings, Travis?
8.5.
8.5. See, that's so tough because I do like this San Diego offense, so I'm probably going to stay away from that. If you could get a good Padres money line, I would probably go for that. Or maybe put them in a small parlay with another favorite, something along those lines.
All right, Bales, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, for pitching, it's obviously Darvish. I'm not really going to touch Arizona. I do believe that there are more than just, Tatis or Machado available for San Diego's offense. I don't really think that Madison Bumgarner's really good. He's just a shell of himself at this point. But with Austin Nola out, I really don't like that because I was going to use Nola. I feel like it's just such a good spot, and I love getting him anytime against basically anyone, but against Bumgarner would have been really nice. With that being said, there are some guys that are too cheap for San Diego, so I'm fine with the stack. I think you can make it work. That's more specifically for tournaments. Obviously, you're not going to stack San Diego over the Dodgers in cash or anything. But I do think that it's a very reasonable stack, and it'll get you different because basically everyone's going to go Dodgers. As for betting, I think I would probably just take San Diego run line or most likely avoid it. I don't really trust San Diego to score the 9 that they need, but I also don't trust that Arizona does too much to or I guess I don't trust that Madison Bumgarner holds San Diego down either. So it's just kind of 50-50. I feel like I would just rather take a shot on San Diego's run line.
All right, we got 3 left here for this podcast. Next one, we have the 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time, Cardinals and Reds. Out of every game on this this main slate of all the games we're talking about on this podcast, the St. Louis Cardinals have the biggest plus money for the run line, as well as the biggest plus money for the well, I guess both teams, for the over at 7.5. Rueb, DFS-wise, what are we looking at for this matchup?
2 great pitchers in Flaherty and Castillo on the hill. This would be an underplay for me just because I really respect both of these pitching options. It'll be interesting to see what this Cardinals offense looks like with the addition of Arenado. I think his road stats that people like to bring up are a little bit noisy, and they are playing in the Great American Small Park. But like Bale said before, here early in the season, I definitely want to be attacking more unders while the weather is cold. Here in the Northeast, we have a cold front coming in tomorrow. So, I mean, we're going to see temps down, and starting pitchers are going to go shorter into games, but we have fully rested bullpens here for opening day. So I definitely lean a ton of unders on this opening day slate.
All right, so do you think that 7.5 is still enough for you to go under on this one?
Yeah, I do. Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, Bales, what are you looking at fantasy-wise?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of fantasy, you can take a shot on Castillo or Flaherty. I like both of them. If I'm just picking one of the two, I lean Castillo. I think he's really, really good at home. Flaherty, better at home. So not that I don't really like him or anything. I think that he's completely fine. But I prefer to play him in St. Louis and not really a small ballpark like Cincinnati. I'm not really going to touch any of the batters in this game. I can't imagine any of them make my pool on this large of a slate. In terms of betting, I completely agree with Rueb. Under 7.5 makes a ton of sense. I also have no issues whatsoever with Cincinnati as a plus dog. I do think that St. Louis is probably the better offense. It's just I give a pretty clear edge to Castillo over Flaherty in this matchup. And if that's the case, actually, I guess if that's the case, I probably would take a first 5 Cincinnati money line on if they're the underdog there.
All right, 2 left here of this podcast. We have the Rays and Marlins, an inter-Florida matchup of Glasnow Alcantara. Mm-hmm. That freaking name, man. I thought I had it, and as soon as I started saying it, my brain's like, nope. All right, so Bale, sticking with you on this one. What are we looking at? Let me see. I'm looking odds-wise. So this, I had a question. Passed my brain. Go ahead, Bales. Fantasy-wise, what are you looking at?
Yeah, in terms of fantasy, I think both pitchers are interesting. I don't really have an issue with them. I think it's very clear that Glasnow is the better pitcher of the two. It's just the fact that Alcantara is so cheap against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is dealing with some injuries already, so they're not going to be at full health to start the season. With that said, I don't hate either team. If you want to get weird for a stack, they're going to have literally no ownership. We know that Glasnow is not going to go that deep into the game, so then you kind of have to deal with the Tampa Bay bullpen. So it really isn't a good spot to prioritize either offense. I just think if you want to get really weird, Miami is just a very, very pesky offense that can score fantasy points and will get legit no ownership tomorrow. And then Tampa Bay, they have a few higher upside guys. More or less, I guess the more that I'm talking about it, I'm just convincing myself the pitchers are so much better than the offenses in this one. I would say that the pitchers are the top 2 plays in the game. And then, if you want to take some weird shots, you have like Brandon Lowe, obviously. His name's slipping my mind. The guy that's going to win Rookie of the Year, Arizona.
Oh yeah, Randy Arozarena. Yep, he's expensive though.
A Rose.
Yeah, I mean, I like that they price specific guys up because you now have an edge in tournaments, in my opinion, where you were playing guys that were outside of cores for 1,000 cheaper. It was so easy to play them. Now you need to make a decision of if you're going to play the guy in cores or if you're going to go with the low ownership. And I think that it makes tournaments a lot more difficult. I think that people are actually going to have to take a stand on who they like as hitters, or they're just going to have to eat the chalk and hope that it works out. Keep in mind, like it's baseball. If you hit the ball and you get on base 3 out of 10 times, like you're a solid hitter.
You're a Hall of Famer. Fail 70% of the time, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a really good spot, I feel like, where they priced odd guys up, where people are actually going to have to make decisions now, and I feel like it's going to make tournaments a lot more interesting.
So a question before we go to Rube's side for this game. I finally remembered what I was going to ask. Now, asking this question about the Dodgers is dumb because they're easily the sportsbook favorite to not only win the NL again, but also win the World Series. But the question I was going to ask was about the Rays, having been the World Series runner-up last season. They are currently the fourth best odds to win the AL ticket again in back-to-back seasons. Do you think they have the squad to return to World Series, Bales, or is this a team that they just got lucky last year, or is too different from last year to make that run again?
All of the above. I think they got a little bit lucky last year. They kind of make it more on coaching, and they take an approach that not a bunch of teams take, and it makes them better than them. They also had a much better team last year than they do this year, in my opinion. Like, their 3 this year is Michael Wacha. As a Mets fan, you know what's up with Michael Wacha. Like, I don't think you're gonna get anywhere with that. I think they probably just start really taking guys and doing the opener back to the long reliever. But even if you're doing that with guys like Wacha, I don't think that they're in a position to make it back to the World Series, especially when you just have complete powerhouses like the Yankees. Outside of injuries, like, there's not a chance that the Rays beat the Yankees in a 7-game series. It just isn't going to happen.
All right, same thing for you, Rube. Touch on the game fantasy-wise, betting-wise, and then if you want to add any 2 cents, whether you're in a complete agreement or denial of what Bales just put down for Rays returning as AL champ. Go ahead with your thoughts.
I'll be straightforward about my thoughts on the Rays in general this season. I'm completely out on them. I think the time has come. I mean, they traded away Snell, and I just can't see them repeating the success that they've had. And I know that we said that before last season as well. I think that they're a very well managed team, so they were really equipped for that weird shortened season. But I'm pretty out on the Rays in general this year, just flat out. And then from a DFS side, yeah, I think this could be an interesting like pitcher stack game because Win not as valuable over on DraftKings. Yeah, I think Alcantara is I said it before, probably my favorite cheap pitcher on the slate. And Bales touched on it. I mean, the Rays are banged up to start the year. You heard I'm out on them. So I might be really invested in him on tomorrow's slate. And I'm okay with that because he allows me to get up to all of these expensive bats that we've been talking about. If I was going to one-off from this game and I didn't have Sandy, it would probably be a price that stood out to me was Austin Meadows at 3.6K. He's someone that I really like his game. He's a potential trade candidate for the Rays as well. So he would be the one-off guy I'd be interested if I wasn't playing Alcantara, which I think I am.
All right, before we get to this final game, so do you guys both agree or disagree with is it a crazy thought that because you're saying like, yeah, the Rays, like they're weaker and they got lucky last season, them being the 4th most likeliest team based on odds to win the AL crown, is that something that's crazy that DraftKings Sportsbook has that, or is that something where everybody else in the AL is so bad that it makes sense?
Yeah, personally, the AL is not that deep this year, in my opinion. I think that the Yankees have a pretty easy path compared to the loaded NL field. Yeah, I mean, 4th best odds is fine. I just wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I mean, as a Mets fan, it pains me to say it. I'm pretty all in on the Yankees making a World Series appearance this year.
I think it's a relatively fine spot. I think my problem is just that, one, like, it's very clear they can't beat the Yankees. Two, compared to the world, I am so high on the Chicago White Sox that it's ridiculous, and they won't touch the White Sox either. It feels like they're in a spot where they're like fourth in the AL, but you throw them in like the NL East, and there's a very real chance that they finish last, which is kind of weird to say, but that's just kind of how the MLB set up this year.
Lucas Giolito, my AL Cy Young pick for this year, Bales. So I'm high on the White Sox as well.
Yep, I like it, and I feel like their bats are actually better than their pitching, and their pitching is pretty up there.
Yep, the Eloy injury hurts, but still high on the White Sox.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the final matchup, the final game we're going to cover here, the final game of the main slate for DFS-wise. There are three-ish. I think there's a 7-game as well. At least 3 games after this one, but jump in the free Discord channel, go to betkarmachat.com to talk about those last 3 10 p.m. Eastern Time ones. But this one will wrap up the stream or the podcast here. We have the Rangers and the Royals. Rueb, starting with you, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, there was an interesting bat in here that I really, really liked in Adalberto Mondesi, but unfortunately, we found out today that he will be starting on the injured reserve or injured list for the Royals, and that kind of hurts their stack upside. We were talking about it pre-show that we're not as interested in them like we would have been. I mean, I feel like this is a game that's going to go under the radar, but I do want to be invested. Man, I really wish Mondesi was playing, because I would be all over this Royals stack for sure. Yeah, you could still play guys like Benintendi. Merrifield's too expensive for me at 5.2, but some one-offs from this game like Benintendi or Joey Gallo are great. Not really excited about the pitching. I guess if you're looking for like a 1% owned guy, you could play Brad Keller, but just go play Alcantara instead for cheap.
Anything betting-wise you're looking at?
It's a tough game to get a gauge on, especially with this Mondesi news. I mean, he's so pivotal for what they're trying to do this year. One of the best fantasy and real life assets that they have. So I haven't fully taken that into account yet. I would have initially leaned the Royals, but now it's more of a stay away from me, in my opinion.
All right. Wrap things up with you, Bales. What do you like about this one?
Yeah, I'll say as of right this second, if I'm picking one of the two, I would lean Alcantara. I think that Brad Keller is a very good play for his price tag. You're going to have to pay down for one of your 2 pitchers, most likely. Realistically, if you wanted to play Alcantara and Keller together and then just load up on like Dodgers and Padres, I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't think anyone's going to do that. I do think that's a really good option. I don't like Kyle Gibson. I was actually looking at Kansas City to be my stack tomorrow. With Mondesi out, it drops him. That's a really big blow, because he probably has as much upside as anyone on their team in terms of bats for fantasy points. So I do think that takes a huge shot to their lineup. Not enough to put me on Kyle Gibson, but enough to probably take me off the stack. Like Rueb said, though, I do think that there's some one-offs. I just feel like at this point, I'm probably a little higher than he is on Brad Keller. But, I would say I do prefer Alcantara, and the chances that anyone walks into opening day feeling overly comfortable about playing Alcantara and Keller together are so slim that I can't imagine you guys are really going to be like, all right, let's play both of them.
Bales, I actually really like that, because I was in on Keller, and I actually had to do some digging to talk myself off of it, because I thought I was a little crazy. So hearing you talk him up is really exciting for me.
Him at home, Keller at home, I think is a real thing. I do, and I just don't like Texas very much. I don't think Texas is overly good.
Sandy, and Brad Keller. You hear how me and Bales are getting to the top tomorrow.
So the final question I have to wrap up this podcast here is, I guess, just for fun, who is the World Series winner and over what team? Bales, we'll go with you. What is your World Series matchup and who takes the crown?
World Series winner. I'm going to go with the Chicago White Sox over the Los Angeles Dodgers.
White Sox over Dodgers. Okay, what about you, Rube?
I like that. For me, I would love my Mets to be there, but unfortunately, I'm going to go with Dodgers over the Yankees in 5.
Dodgers over Yankees in 5. Okay. All right, so that about wraps this one up. Make sure that if you haven't yet, you click that like button. You click that subscribe button. We are going to be doing live streams and recorded podcasts for MLB, both betting and DFS-wise, all season long. If you are not in our Discord channel getting our free bets, I don't know what you're doing. Jump in there, get the free bets. All you got to do is go to betkarmachat.com. You'll automatically have access to the MLB Premium channel. But yeah, if you have any questions about anything betting related, if you're not sure what run line means or any of this stuff, we are always available in this chat room to answer any questions. There's no question that's too dumb, too newbie, too novice. Just ask the question and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Appreciate Rube and Bales hopping on here going through this opening day preview. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.